So the first thing I would like to do is open up with a little piece about where I started. It's called The Road. The road is in love with me. It comes turning out of my childhood, twisting through my morning, interrupting my picnic. It taps while I'm asleep, like a kitten wishfully waiting for the door to open. I'm always dreaming of the road. As a boy, I stood beside it and I watched it as it stretched in the summer afternoon, so concrete, so eternal. As a young man, it grabbed my hand and it carried me through my gate, past my school with its oak wooden floors and wide eastern views, carried me past my church, so small now, inadequate steeple, stained glass windows, carried me past gardens with corn so high, I'm sure it only grew to give the wind a place to go, carried me past my father's blows and my mother's easy words, carried me away from home and into the night and the next morning and the next night and the next morning and the next night until I stand before you right here, breathing and alive, not too far from where I started in Asheville, North Carolina, breathing and alive. The road is in love with me. Some people love the road, and I just love the way these notes are floating around the room. Who's doing this? There must be somebody else here in the middle of all this. I love the road, and the road reminds me of beauty because when you're on the road, you see beauty. A poet named Charles Wright from Pickwick, Tennessee, said this in a poem titled Lonesome Pine Special. He said, and he's talking about beauty, it's true, I think, as Kinko says in his Idleness, all beauty begins with disappearance. The bitten edges of things, the gradual sliding away into tissue and memory, the uncertainty and dazzling impermanence of days we beg our meanings from, and their frayed loveliness. The uncertainty and dazzling impermanence of days we beg our meanings from, and their frayed loveliness. Think about that for a moment. You know, the days, they seem so permanent, and yet there's uncertainty, the dazzling impermanence, and yet we beg our meanings from them. Now, I mentioned Taos, New Mexico. I did grow up in Asheville, but I have spent a lot of time in Taos. And one of the things that happens in Taos, and I do love this sound, the Harley, the sound of the Harley Davidson. Some of you may have heard that sound before. You know, it sounds good. It's a bit like you hear it too much. If it's next door, it gets a little loud. But if it just roars by, it says, hey, come on, follow me. Let's go somewhere. This is about what happens on Memorial Day weekend, which is coming up pretty soon, I believe. Hundreds of Harleys invade Taos, New Mexico, every Memorial Day weekend. Those bikers, mostly men with gray in their beards, ride their hogs. Hair blown back, wind hitting their jackets, leather boots above power-stoking engines that boom through silver pipes. Past Taos Gems and Mineral, Song's Asian Restaurant, and Anthony Lopez's law office. You know, Harleys were roaring through Taos long before Dennis Hopper and Peter Fonda rode easy over that Rio Grande Bridge looking for adventure and a place to smoke and lightning into the 21st century where they would never grow old. Like those bikers in Taos every Memorial Day weekend. Helmets be damned. Oh, these cats, they're riding with their souls free down that long road that always curves out of Sunday morning. They lean into the warm air, never noticing how their shadows ripple across fence posts, barbed wire, and no trespassing signs. And you've seen that before, rippling across the the barbed wire and the no trespassing signs, all our shadows, the uncertainty and dazzling impermanence of days we beg our meanings from. And yet it's about love. You know those Harley riders. They love those Harleys. Maybe you're one of them. Maybe you have a Harley in your garage. I don't know. I don't have one, but I have ridden on the back of one time, and I was happy to do it. So we're talking about love and beauty, and here's the story of younger love, and it's still set in Taos. I've got a couple of more poems, and then I'll say goodbye for right now, but we'll be back later. A couple of weeks ago, on my way out of Taos to Santa Fe, a road sign warned bighorn sheep. I scanned the land for wildlife. Nothing moved but my borrowed Mini Cooper, gliding 60 miles an hour, sunroof pushed back, winded down, scent of sage in the air. Janis Joplin on the radio. I downshifted for the curves, and I started thinking about the first time I heard Janis cover Chris Christopherson's Me and Bobby McGee. You know, I always thought when Janis said she let Bobby slip away, she meant he left her for another woman, or he hoboed to Seattle because he loved those rails more than he loved her, or he just plain turned mean and he robbed a bank. Now I know better. Bobby died, and he did it in the arms of a woman that loved him. An hour after I got to Santa Fe, I watched a young married couple ordering sandwiches at the Aztec Cafe. They touched each other while they waited. The air was clean and dry. A few white clouds floated in the egg blue sky. And I will sorbet the room with a love poem written by Edwin Morgan, and I love this beat right now. It's a very short one. We're winding down. It's titled Strawberries. There were never strawberries like the ones we had that sultry afternoon, sitting on the steps of the open French window, your knees held in mine and the blue plates in our laps. The strawberries, the glistening in the hot sunlight. We dipped them in sugar, not hurrying the feast for one to come. The blue plates laid on the stone together with the two forks crossed. I bent toward you, sweet in that air from your eager mouth, the taste of strawberries. In my memory, lean back again and let me love you. Let the sun beat on our forgetfulness. 1 hour of heat, intense, and summer lightning on the Kilpatrick Hills. Let the storm wash the plates. All beauty begins with disappearance. Thank you.